Hello, beloveds. I am feeling super high, super grateful from our ritual activation today. Unlock ancient feminine codes to awaken your inner priestess. We were dropping in deep with embodied feminine ritual through this activation in order to really, the main thing that I want to communicate to the larger population who wasn't there live is that in the last 16 years, I've been supporting women to rewire unconscious programming. And what I have seen again and again and again is that the ways that we personalize our bullshit, the ways we personalize our wounds really has to end. Because I can tell you, I have a deep inner lens into the collective soil of women. And I can tell you that it is the same patterns again and again and again. Today, we were diving into what are these primary 6 feminine wounds and how can we alchemize them to reclaim the gifts. In order to do that, we do have to go back in her story. We do have to go back and look at our 40,000 years of goddess culture that we know of. And note that only in the past 5,000 years, it's so small, it's so tiny, have we had war? Have we had slavery? Have we had women being pushed out of positions of power? So in the grand scheme of things, this is a very short period, and really we don't even see it start to hit heavy until the Common Era for the last couple thousand years. So in the grand scheme of things, it's really important to recontextualize where we are at. So much of the way that culture operates is that it makes it seem like this is just the way it is, right? Like this is just natural, particularly with pop culture. It's just like, oh, but this is just the world we live in. And that's why it's so important to get underneath the surface, underneath the soil of the feminine psyche, and underneath the soil of what actually created this culture in which we live. Yes, we're so blessed to be, that I can speak to you here without being burned at the stake. Yes, I'm fucking grateful. Yes, I'm grateful to my ancestresses who worked for that right. And the time has come that we are remembering the codes of feminine awakening are arising in us and through us. So I want to really call out to all of our community of women the ways that you feel any shame or discomfort in your body, the ways that you feel disconnected from your sensuality, your sexuality, or your pleasure, the ways that we become just emotionally dysregulated, whether we just numb out or we can't handle it, or we just explode out of control, the ways that we hold a sense of mistrust for other women or feel challenges to engage in intimate, deep, meaningful ways. This and more, these are all patterns of feminine wounding. This isn't personal. And so when we are able to identify that there is a framework that has been laid out for us, that we're in the process of healing, it's so, I find again and again as women discover these truths that it's so incredibly liberating for us to know that our process of healing is not only is our process of wounding, are we not alone in that, but our process of healing, we are not alone in that. And we're so incredibly blessed that our ancestresses carried these practices at risk of their own death. And yes, many of our sacred feminine ritual and spiritual practices have been lost. Of course they have. We literally would be tortured for dropping into the oracular capacity of our womb. We could literally be tortured for worshiping the earth that provides us with our food and our life. We could literally be tortured for supporting other women to bring their babies into the world in a way that provided them with less discomfort. This is the reality of what our ancestresses were dealing with in the Middle Ages, which again, I just want to point out, it was not that long ago. We're talking the 1300s. Like, we only got the capacity to own land again in 1900 in the United States as women. So this is like a very short period of time that we're talking about. These wounds are fresh in many ways, and also the reclamation of our inherent spiritual practices, our inherent practices of communing with the way that the universe moves through us as goddess, as Shakti, as living, sacred life force, as sexuality, as awake, alive, vital, flourishing motherhood, flourishing lovership, flourishing wise women. Those practices can actually never really be lost. You can burn them, you can burn the books, you can burn me, you can do whatever you want, you can censor it. But the practices of the feminine will rise again. Why? Because they're just the codes of the earth. They're literally what's real. It's like literally what is outside that we can see, touch, taste, feel, know to be true. Unlike the ego mind that is conditioned by our past and by our culture. This is a beautiful fact, yeah? This is a beautiful fact. So today in our ritual activation, we were working with these ancient feminine codes, unwaking and unlocking them in our bodies, through our bodies together, because that's the way it works. These codes, these ancient practices of the feminine, these mystery school teachings, yes, it is important to come together. Yes, it is important to find a teacher who has embodied these for herself. And these codes can only be embodied through us, as us. And they don't come through the mind. They don't come through a book. That's not the way that the feminine works. The feminine works as life force through our bodies. And this is where feminine spirituality wakes us back up. It is inherently tantric in nature. It reminds us that our healing and transformation doesn't always have to be hard. Yes, there is a reckoning. Yes, there is a reclaiming of emotions unfelt. And we can heal and rewire our brain and rewire trauma through pleasure also. And the last piece that I want to speak about the importance of gathering in women's ritual. So I want to speak especially just to women who are on the path. Like, if chances are, if you're in my network, that you're a woman on the path. You meditate, you practice yoga, you receive acupuncture, you're interested in alternative healing modalities, you're interested in Eastern spirituality. Yes, me too. So potent, so profound, so imperative. And there is a feminine glass ceiling in whatever spiritual practices we get that are purportedly universal. there is a feminine glass ceiling in whatever spiritual practices we receive that are purportedly universal. Because there is a direct embodied initiatory biology that we carry. That our life cycle, our moon cycle, our hormonal cycle is directly allied to the sacred and ancient cycles of the planet. So if we're practicing meditation or spirituality that is in nature, purportedly just for everyone, we will hit a glass ceiling in our growth. The divine feminine mysteries are actually the only way to access the immense healing capacity within our own bodies. The full force of our intuition and our oracular abilities, our capacity to create life, our capacity to create and rebirth cultures. It's alive and well and living inside of your sacred, precious, beautiful, holy body. And we need sacred spaces to fully understand the import and how to tap in, how to harness meditation, breath work, and movement practices that were specifically created by women for women, both ancient and modern. And to come together in these sacred spaces together so that we can really fully understand the immense enormity, the capacity of what we're capable of. If women knew what these bodies were capable of creating on this planet, we would have no issue recreating the culture into an ancient future where we return back into harmony with our planet and return back into structures that support us to be aligned in our emotional and physical bodies. So there's an immense power here that comes through the direct transmission of the earth through our bodies. This is why, for women, ritual in alignment with the moon is imperative. This is why gathering in sisterhood is imperative to heal these sister wounds. And that's the other thing I want to share about our activation today, from our activation today, is that in terms of the divine feminine mysteries, sisterhood is the path. It is the methodology. It's not like a cutesy thing that's just fun to get together. I mean, sure, it is sometimes. Sometimes it's super triggering. And yes, it's effort, right? And it literally is the methodology. The feminine is collaborative in nature. So if you, as a woman, are on your path of inner healing, your relationship to your sensuality, your sexuality, your embodiment, your relationship to shame, your relationship to your intuition, to your healthy boundaries, to overgiving, your relationship to control, or your relationship to aligning your mood, aligning and harmonizing your moods and your hormones. If you're on any of these paths and you're trying to do it alone, like, bless you, we all are. Like, so many of us are out there trying to do this on our own. And yes, inner work, like on our own and with a single practitioner, imperative, like so important. And again, we will hit a glass ceiling because the methodology of the rebirth, or the process, the organic process of the rebirth of the feminine at this time, always, is community. It is literally how the healing occurs. And it is how the codes come through. Because we've lost the direct transmission of these practices through violence over the years and repression over the years, these codes arise again from the earth through our bodies. But you're carrying a piece, I'm carrying a piece, She's carrying a piece. She's carrying a piece. And yeah, he's carrying a piece of the divine feminine moving through him. They are carrying a piece. All of us are on this path of coming back into balance. Because of course, this isn't about creating like a matriarchy or like overtaking shit. This is about coming back into the harmony of the yin and yang, the ancient primordial synergy of life that is mirrored through the day and the night, the light and the dark, the moon and the sun. These are the deepest truths of feminine balance. And it is up to the feminine. It is up to women who have access to these codes on a really deep level that right now they're returning and arising. It is up to us in order to create that sacred space to commune with our bodies, in order to receive these direct transmissions, which don't always come in the form of thought forms, right? Like they're not always things we can write down or communicate to other people. They're ways of being, they're ways of moving in the world that then transmit to other people. So the cool thing is that the rise of the divine feminine is like, and let me even restate that the return to balance on our planet, it's like a virus. You can't stop it. There's literally nothing you can do to stop it except to disconnect women from their bodies. So let's keep remembering again and again and again that the most effective way to disempower a population is by disconnecting them from their bodies. Because then they're disconnected from their self-worth, their intuition, their healthy boundaries. Very easy to control. Very easy to control. So the reclamation of the feminine body, and even the reclamation of the temple priestess traditions, of which we dropped in super deep with today in our activation, are really the pathway back to harmony and balance on the planet. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool that it's like we can move through, yes, there's a lot of reckoning to be had. Yes, I'm not painting this unicorn in crystals, like rainbow portrait for you, that this isn't going to be like a really intense decade. And always the truth of the feminine is there, that we can return again and again, no matter what's happening around us, no matter the chaos. We can return again and again back to source, back to the body temple, to commune directly with spirit. This is feminine spirituality. This is innately tantric in nature. That we don't need a priest we don't need a book, we don't need a priest, we don't need someone else to tell us what's true and real. We can experience direct communion with spirit in our bodies in this moment. So today we dropped in deep to womb oracular practices, really communing with the womb, and created sacred sisterhood, dropping in with the herstory of the goddess, as well as the 6 primary feminine wombs and the 6 primary feminine gifts that come when we enter back into this sacred relationship to the feminine mystery teachings. I so invite you to look in. Sister, what do you desire? How do you desire to uplevel in your life? What are you struggling with? What are you struggling with? Because it's not just you. This is a historical phenomenon that is coming to a head at the moment. And by identifying clearly the ways that we fit into this violent cultural patterning, we can arm ourselves as the peaceful warrior, as the warrior of the heart. We can gain these skills and tools of the priestess to dive into the mystery that is our body, to dive into the temple that is our body, to dive into the living ritual that is our life, and to heal for our ancestral line Because today, in that circle of women, we had 150 women signed up to gather today in ritual. And in that circle, almost every single woman said she was the first in her line to be doing this feminine reclamation work, to be honoring and acknowledging the feminine as valuable and essential for the evolution of our own healing and the evolution and healing of the planet. Are you the first in your line? I know I am. If it's true that you feel that, if you feel that to be true, I want to give you a big, huge fucking bow. Because it is not easy. It is not easy to come back in to a body in a culture that has trained us to stand outside of our body, to give our body, to be objectified in our body, to shame and control and police our body. But it's the only way. Because if it's not you, it's got to be someone in your line. Are you going to put that on your nieces? Are you going to put that on your daughters?